Creative Scoop, and I'm back with another tutorial for Sunny Studio Stamps. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how I use this beautiful Frilly Frames eyelet lace die, and we're also using a couple of other different dies and stamps to create this very bright card. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is take our die. So when you get it, it comes like this in two pieces. This is the Frilly Frames eyelet lace, and it has the scallop border and then the eyelet lace right here in the center. So you can either, it comes together so you could just cut it. So you don't have to, you could use one or the other. So it's really, really versatile. So what we're gonna do is I have a piece of cardstock here, 8.5 by 5.5, and I've scored it at 4 1/4. So I have my card base in white, and then I also have another piece of white cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5.5. And we're gonna go ahead and die cut this piece out just like this with the eyelet lace right in the center. So you get this beautiful, beautiful die, and it's just gorgeous when it's all cut out and you get all those little pieces out. So now we're going to go ahead and get some Distress Oxide inks and add some color to our piece of eyelet lace. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put a rainbow background onto our dyed piece of cardstock. We're going to start with Barn Door, and I'm just going to get my brush nice and inked up, and we're going to go ahead and have the rainbow start. So red is going to be up here, and we're going to do the purple all the way down. So I'm just going to turn my paper to the side just because it's easier to record that way. And I'm going to come right along the top. Let's get a little more ink. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and use the dried marigold for the orange. Let's just wipe off that excess ink so that way it doesn't get all over our fingers and paper. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the dried marigold and do the exact same thing. Get a nice blend right along that red. So since I've added a lot more of the orange than the red, I'm going to go back and add a little bit more of my red just so I have the same amount of color down for each color. So I'm just going to go back through and just pull down the red a little bit more. And let's go ahead and go back a little bit more with the dried marigold, just so we get a nice blend between the two colors. Okay, set that aside, and let's wipe this off. So now for the yellow, we're going to be using Scattered Straw. And it's very similar actually to the dried marigold. I'm going to go back with a little bit more of the dried marigold just to add a little bit more of this orange. And now for the green, we're going to be using Evergreen Bow. Evergreen Bow. And we're going to come right into some of that yellow. And now we're going to go back with a little bit more of the Scattered Straw. And I should have a little bit more of the green on my brush, so I'm just going to kind of go back and forth just a little bit. All right, so now let's go ahead and use the tumbled glass. Actually, let's wipe this up so I don't pull up any of that other color. So I'm going to go into some of that blue, or I'm sorry, into some of the green. And then let's go back and add a little bit more of the green. And now for some purple, we're going to be using the shaded lilac. Let's wipe this mess up. And then add our last color. And now, of course, we got to go back with a little bit more of the blue. All right, so we have a beautiful rainbow on our die. Doesn't that look just gorgeous? Okay. So now for the next step. Okay, so I measured the inside of the square here right around the eyelet lace, and it's about a little tiny bit over 4.5 by 3 5/8. So what we're gonna do is take this piece of white cardstock and we're gonna cut the inside using our paper trimmer, and I'm just gonna leave a 1/4 inch border. So I'm gonna remove this center part of this white piece of cardstock so that way I can see all of the pattern from the die on the inside and still have that white border going around the scalloped edges. So the way that I do this is I make sure the edge of the paper here lines up with the 1/4 inch mark right up here. And then the 1/4 inch mark right here, we're gonna go ahead and put the blade right there, press down, and then you wanna make sure you're coming up a 1/4 inch from here. So it's gonna be right around the 3 inch mark. So the line that's right here, you're gonna pull it all the way down to the 3 inch. And then we're gonna flip the paper around, the same thing. We're gonna go right up to that 1/4 inch mark here and get our blade right at the 1/4 inch mark. Press down, and you wanna make sure you come at the 1/4 inch mark, 4 1/4 here. So I'm gonna press down and come all the way down to the 4 1/4. Lift back up and repeat. Go up to the 1/4 inch mark, and then again here to the 3. And I didn't go all the way up, so I'm just gonna push it up just a hair. Now I've met that little cut mark. And then again, turn. So line it up and come all the way down to that 4 1/4. I didn't go up all the way. And then sometimes you get a little stuck in the edges there if you didn't go all the way, but now you have this frame that's gonna go right in the center and still revealing our lace pattern in the center. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and set this aside and work on our frame. So we have our white frame, and then I'm gonna take a piece of white cardstock and the Fluffy Clouds border die, and I'm gonna cut out 2 different sections so that way we can fit 2 little pieces of cloud borders right behind the frame. So it's gonna come cloud right here and then one right behind it. So let's go ahead and die cut those. Okay, so I've cut out the same, I used the same die, just kind of cut them off at different areas so that way they look a little bit different, and this is going to fit perfectly right on the inside of our frame, and it's going to go on the rainbow part, so it's going to go just like that. So now we need to add a sun. So in the die set comic strip speech bubbles, there's a little, it's almost like one of those little POW speech bubbles, and it really resembles a sun. So I'm going to cut this out in yellow so that way we can tuck it back behind our clouds. So here we go. We're going to put this part here that would usually point to somebody's for the speech bubble. We're going to tuck that part behind the clouds so that way you can't see it. And it's going to go right behind there and just peek out just a little bit. So before we start gluing all of this down, I want to add a little bit of water droplets to the Distress Oxide background just so we can get that reaction and have a little bit more contrast and texture in our rainbow. So I'm going to go ahead and take my little water bottle, and I don't like spraying it directly on the paper. I like to spray it on my fingers first and give a couple little flicks here and there so that way they really spread out and it looks more like water splatters than just a big old spray. And then we're just gonna lightly press with a paper towel and pull up all of that water so it will reveal some water spots. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more because I want a little bit more on there. And I feel like I need a little bit more. It's very, very faint, and I want it to be a little bit brighter. All right, so it's a little bit better there. That way you can really see some of those little water spots. So let's wipe off all of that excess water. And now we can go ahead and start building our card. Okay, so I have a piece of cardstock. This is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then we're gonna go ahead and attach our rainbow eyelet scallop die here right in the center, and we're gonna use some foam tape. All right, so we have our strip of foam tape on there, and let's go ahead and attach it to our card. We want the red to go up because that's the start color of the rainbow. And you want to make sure it's even, you have enough or even of white on all 4 sides. Love the way the dimension looks with that. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start building our frame. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of glue, and we're going to attach the first row of clouds straight to the back of this border that we created. So I'm going to line it up right at the bottom. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and take that second layer, and we're going to add some foam tape right on the back of the cloud that we've already added to our frame, so that way we get a little bit more dimension within the clouds. So we'll add this strip here. and then attach the other row. You kind of want to eyeball it to see if you want to come up a little higher or down a little bit more. So I think that's good. So that way we have a little bit of dimension. And that's going to go right here. And we are also going to be adding a little bit, we want to make sure that this piece here is going to be flat, but since we've raised it, we have to put the foam tape all the way around the border that we created. Okay, so I've added my tape. Now we can go ahead and attach it to the center of our die. All right, so here we go. Have some nice dimension going on, and you can see that beautiful eyelet lace pattern in the background. And now we can add our sun. So I'm going to start by adding the border part first. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue on some of these little rays. And then we're going to tuck it behind the back, the cloud in the back. And then we're going to add a little bit of glue on the center part and also stick it right in the back. Make sure it's lined up. Super cute. And now for our sentiment. So I've used the word sentiment sunshine and I've cut it out twice, and we're going to go ahead and layer these two pieces together so that way it gives it just a little bit more height, and that way it, since it is going to be white on white, it'll stand out a little bit more. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of glue and glue these together and set them aside so they dry. So then I use some of the sentiment from the new Enchanted stamp set, and it just says "You're my," so that way it could say "You're my sunshine." So I'm just going to trim this down so we can figure out exactly where we are going to put our sentiment. Haven't decided yet if I want, when I originally thought about this, I wanted to put it on the white, but I don't know if I want it up here. So let's just play with this for a second. So I kind of like that. Okay, so everything is glued down, and then I decided to take some of the Sunny Studio Iridescent Pastel Confetti, and it just really pulls this card together. So much fun to create, and it's relatively simple, just layering the dies and really thinking outside the box, like for the sun using the little conversation bubble. So I hope you enjoyed this video that I created, and I hope I've inspired you. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.